Feeling overwhelmed? Searching for someone who truly gets it? At J. Branch and Associates, we provide mental health support for BIPOC communities, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, and others facing unique challenges. We understand the weight of generational trauma, the struggles of identity, and the pressures of being a part of an underestimated and overlooked group. At J. Branch and Associates, therapy isn't a one-size-fits-all. We create a safe, culturally aware space where you can feel seen, heard, and understood. Finding a therapist who truly fits you matters, and that's exactly what we're here for. Our team of highly trained licensed therapists bring compassion, empathy, and real-world experience to help you on your journey to healing and growth. We're committed to helping you become the best version of yourself. Ready to take the next step? Visit us at www.drjbranch.com for more information, or call or text 404-436-2540 to schedule your free 15-minute consultation. You can also book your first session today. Thank you for choosing J. Branch and Associates, therapists of color providing exceptional care to BIPOC communities, quality service, exceptional care from authentic professionals.
Three parallels. Yeah. Three parallels. Yeah. Three parallels.
Three Parallel Podcast. Come take this walk with me.
Welcome back to the Three Parallels Podcast with your host, the Dr. Jason Branch, where we rediscover who we once were, embrace who we are, and work towards becoming the best version of ourselves. And today's guest, believe it or not, we've never met in person. We never breathed the same air. We never touched each other's skin. However, we are two Black men in this helping professional doing the best we can with what we have. And this brother, I just saw from afar. I just saw his energy, his passion, his integrity, his authenticity on social media. And I decided we got to connect. I reached out instantly. Yes, how can I help? How can I serve? Which just proved my belief about who this man is. I want to introduce to you Dr. Justin Dodson. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Welcome to the show.
Man, Dr. Branch, I appreciate you having me. It's an honor and a privilege to share space, and I look forward to getting into a conversation today.
Excellent, excellent. So let's dive right in. I'm curious, as a Black man, and we both know, with the mental health profession, a lot of us don't even go to therapy. So not only do you may have experienced therapy, but you became a therapist and went even further and got your PhD. So just curious, how did you get here?
Yeah. Ooh, how did you get here? It's interesting because, I think a lot of therapists start because someone has told them or they have served in the capacity of being the voice of reason in their community.
Mm.
And so I believe how I got here was a God's gift. Truly, God's gift and purpose for my life. So I'll start there. You're starting heavy, we'll start heavy, right?
Let's go. Let's go.
So I'm originally born and raised in Memphis, Tennessee. And I've told this story several times, but long story short, I lost my father at a young age. And from there, when you have major life events, traumatic events, whether it's a move or a loss of a parent or a pet, you see hard things, it shapes your life in a certain direction. And I always say that losing my father at a young age really shaped how I saw the world. In some spaces, I think I became really numb and cold because what do you do when you lose one of the biggest parts of you? Yeah. And then on the other end, I think I became really empathetic. And I recognize those are two different ends of a spectrum. But I really do think that I became cold and numb to loss and really empathetic to feeling. So I would say that that's where it started, and being raised by a single mother overnight with an older brother. And I was always inquisitive. I studied mock trial. I was going to be a lawyer. I was smart, ambitious, and went to college. Now as therapists, we do not know how to count. That therapists, we're not good at numbers. Don't talk about math.
I would have to agree.
Right? I was interviewing somebody this week and I said, don't ask me to add nothing up. That's not what my strength is. I can admit where I am. And so I knew that anything in, math or technology was really off the table. So I went to college at UT Chattanooga and I was going to be a lawyer. Right. And then I saw that you had to do foreign language. And then I said,
Mm.
so you thought I'm not doing that. Spanish 1 and 2 in high school were enough for me. Gotcha. And in orientation, you meet your advisor, and I saw the curriculum for psychology, and it just made sense. I'm not sure what
Mm.
happened in that moment, but it just clicked for me. So I studied psychology all 4 years. Then I went to graduate school, and then because I really see myself as ambitious, I got my doctorate.
Mm.
And and you study psychology, you're often introduced to nonprofit.
Mhm.
That's the entry, right? The gateway
Yeah.
drug to mental health. And I did that for several years on and off. And I worked in university settings until I finally did private practice. So I would say I got here by experiencing a major life event, studying the degree path to get you to this place, because I always believed that being a therapist was how I was going to be able to live out my purpose.
So
Yeah.
we in the basement already. So so real quick, just to explain, the basement. So I feel as though all of us there, it's a house. All of us represents a house, and in that house, there's three layers. The first layer is the attic. It's pristine, it's nice, it's comfortable, and the attic is our mind. That's where we spend a lot of time in our heads. The second is the living room. That's where we are in our presence, as authentic as we can be. And then the heart, the emotion, the trauma, the pain, the darkness is in the basement. And that's
Mhm.
where the magic happens when we spend some time in the basement to come out. So we're already in the basement,
Mhm.
which is just great. It just speaks volumes to our emotional intelligence. And I'm proud of us for that and putting it
Yeah.
on display. So I'm curious, you mentioned, that passion and purpose. Everyone doesn't know that they have it or don't know what it is. So how did you discover that passion and purpose and then decide I'm going to work towards this?
Yeah. My imagination. And what I
Mm.
mean by that is growing up, I was always asked, who's your favorite superhero? I wasn't really into cartoons. I still don't know certain like Disney movies. Judge me not. But my imagination was always my safe place. That was all my safe
Mm.
haven. That was always my safe haven. And that's where I could dream without interruption. That's where I could hope without ridicule or judgment. Right. And so I always dreamed of what it would be like to be at that time what I saw as successful or what I believed was success, which really was the opposite of we got to eat ramen noodles every day because that's the best we can do. Or
Mhm.
I have to wear hand-me-downs because that's what's available. Right. So
Yeah.
it was the opposite of what I would see around me and some of what I experienced. And so I think that when I think about success and ambition, it was all right, let me dream this beautiful life. And then how do you actually get there? Because no one really teaches you the blueprint. But what
Mhm.
was always instilled within me from my mom was believe in God, pray, and go to school. There
Mhm.
was really no, it was you're going to be a good person, you're going to believe in Christ, and also you need to get your education. So I knew from a young age that education was going to be my gateway to whatever else I wanted life to be. So I stuck on that path,
Yeah.
which is why it took me 4 years to do undergrad and not 7 like some of my friends. It took me 3 years to do my master's, and I work full time, and I work full time throughout my doctorate, and it took me 4.5 years to do my doctorate.
Mhm.
So between my imagination and then going with what I was taught to get your education, I knew that those two things had to come together in order to get me somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's powerful. That's powerful. I appreciate you sharing all of that. And it sounds so familiar on the opposite end because I was one of those people that took 6 years to get that undergrad degree. But
Mhm.
once I figured it out, it didn't take me long to move forward. So 2 years for the master's, 3 years for the PhD because I had to figure it out. And that's what I love about us, where no matter where we are in our career, in our lives, we all have a story and it's different. But that story is what led us to become the versions of us who we are right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
So with that said, I'm curious your experience because we have similar lived experience being Black men in this profession. How did you navigate these worlds of undergrad to graduate to a PhD in counseling in this environment that's predominantly white? So as
Yeah.
a Black male, how did you navigate this? How did you not quit? How did you not give up? How did you survive through
Yeah.
all of this to get to where you are right now?
Yeah. Well, I think you have to let your ego take the front seat.
Ooh, ooh,
You
ooh,
do
hold on,
it.
time out. Hold on, time out. Listen, y'all. Listen, I tried to tell y'all from the beginning. I tried to let you know. These are those moments where you got to get your journal. Get your journal, get your Gator Scales journal, and write down these nuggets, write down these gems. Because Dr. Dodson just hit y'all on the head with a honey bun. And we just getting started. Okay. We only 15 minutes in here. You already hitting hard. So please share more related to what just came up.
Well, honey bun used to be my snack as a kid. So I'll go nutty bars and honey buns. You couldn't tell me, man. I used to F them up. You know, you eat the
Oh, you
bar
can cuss on here. You can cuss on here. It's
during,
fine.
I would fuck them up. Eat the whole box on summer break. And then mom comes home and she's like, well, where's all the food I bought? Uh, we did what was intended to be done. We ate it.
I love it. I love it. I am here for it.
How did I do this? I let my ego take the front seat. I think that that's the answer that I have when you talk about how did you not quit? So you do it alone and you let your ego lead because anybody that's done an advanced degree, anybody that gets a PhD understands that if I never met depression before, I met it in that program
Yes, indeed.
because it was truly an uphill battle.
Mm-hmm.
So in undergrad, I went to a predominantly white institution in Tennessee, even though there was a great number of people of color and Black people at the university. But in my classes, I was always one of few.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Especially as you get more into your major related classes, you just see you less and less from Gen Ed. And then in graduate school, I was the first Black male to graduate from the Master's of Counseling program at my graduate school. Wow. So I was truly, you do it alone, right?
Yeah.
There are Black women here, but you're alone. You get to your PhD program, you're the first Black male to get a PhD in that discipline from the university. So you do it alone, but you let your ego lead by being determined. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to quit. I am here for a reason. So my mantra was always, especially when stuff got hard, because it is not easy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that the coursework is hard. It's the mental gymnastics that you have to play to get around the politics and the racism and the being treated and seen as other that I think is difficult. And also creating this blueprint because you haven't seen other people do it.
Yes.
And by the time you get to the people that have done it, they want to gatekeep, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Ooh.
Right?
You are preaching today. You are preaching.
And so you let your ego lead by being determined. And I think people get ego confused with it always being a bad thing. I think ego is your determination. It is your grit. It's how you want to be an ambassador for yourself. And it could be used for bad, it could be used for good. And in my case, I used it to get somewhere. And I think that's how I made it. I was smart. I knew I could do the work. Probably some arrogance at times.
Tell us about this arrogance.
I probably carried a little chip on my shoulder, especially when I got into the workforce, where I think people underestimated me because I was a Black male therapist. And so I think what that means is that sometimes in some spaces, people don't know what to do with you or how to treat you. And so they relegate you to being bottom of the shelf. Oh, well, he'll just be a disciplinarian or he will, and then they put you in these certain roles. No, my arrogance says, I really do this. I really understand behavior. I really understand. This just isn't, I studied in school and made good grades. This is, I have a lived experience and I understand people. This is a gift. This isn't just, I read the DSM and I took classes. No, this is, I understand what I'm hearing and conceptualizing with a client without them saying or doing something. I get it. So I think it's putting that gift in the right places in order to fulfill the dream. Yeah. So that's what I mean by putting the ego in the front seat, where anytime that I wanted to quit, well, at that point, I've told too many people I'm doing this program. So, well, you better, you're gonna get this work. And my mantra was, God wouldn't bring me this far to leave me. And he is going to give me the tools that I need to sustain where he places me. And that was what I needed to uplift myself every time I wanted to quit in my doctorate, not in undergrad or my master's, but in the doctorate. That's where it was shaky.
Yes. And this show, I'm also about giving flowers, man. And I want to give you your flowers. You earned it. I value you. I appreciate you. And you did the things that a lot of us aren't willing to do or just have a hard time doing, meaning completing, finishing. Like you knew, I have a goal, I have a dream. Nobody's going to stop me from doing this. And that arrogance or that confidence, I love it. And that ego, looking at it in a different way. I'm in the driver's seat. I determine where I'm going. The road is going to be bumpy. It's going to be all these different things, but I know where I'm going. And I value that and I love that. And to me, you sharing that gives the listeners an opportunity to look at things in a different way because for many of us, we're stuck in the trunk of our own car.
Mm.
So, next piece. You said a later time, a later day. This is that later time and later day because what you brought up is so powerful that a lot of people aren't aware of. And the reality is, just because someone is Black in this profession, we typically have an expectation because we are the same types of people that will help anybody, especially somebody that looks like us. So there's an expectation that we have when we see people doing the things that we want to do, that they're going to help us do it. And it sounds like you had a very similar experience that I had of having this expectation and then being disappointed by somebody
Yeah.
that looks like you or somebody that's part of the culture that doesn't have a desire or interest to help you. So if you could share as much as you choose that experience of recognizing just because you look like me doesn't mean you're going to help me.
Yeah. You know, I credit Black women to be the cornerstone of my success. My
Mm,
first mentors were Black women. Uh,
mm,
I had a friend slash spiritual mentor in college in my master's program, Erica Mayo. She's a real estate agent, but she was in school to get her counseling degree. And Erica truly, I know that God placed her in my life to speak to me and to simply be a guiding light for questions that I had. Um,
mm-hmm,
so I think that that's where it started. And then just throughout the time over the years, different Black women have just been placed to challenge my thinking. That's how I got into private practice. I remember telling somebody, I said, "Oh, well, where I am in nonprofit is so great." And she said, "Well, is it?
mm,
Is it really?" And that was the first time that I really questioned, is it? Right. And then another Black woman said, "Well, what's your exit date from that job? Because you belong here."
wow.
And so I think that in terms of motivation and encouragement, I've had a lot of that, especially a mom, right? A Black
Yeah.
mother who was a praying mother. And I found mentorship and sponsorship, because those are two different things.
Oh, we.
I found mentorship within maybe last year,
Okay.
a psychologist in Nashville.
Mm-hmm,
And that's been great. And I found sponsorship a few months ago,
okay.
right? So mentorship, somebody's going to teach you the ropes, tell you, guide you, really focus almost as a therapist
Mm-hmm,
for you. And a
mm-hmm,
sponsor is really someone who says, "Hey, this is this resource. I'm going to tell them about you. Do
mm-hmm.
these things in order to get through the door."
Yeah.
Right? So it's two different examples of these are the things you can do either by hand or mentally. This is what you're
Mm-hmm,
going to do in order to get to the next step. So mine just came later in life. I think that it was so between having those Black women speak to me and finding what I have now, that in between space
yeah.
was reaching out to different Black male professionals. Because I would just go to Psychology Today, which is an engine to find a therapist in your area. I would go there and I would message people and say, "Hey, introduce myself. Would love to grab lunch, blah, 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 just to learn more about you and connect." And either people would ignore it or agree to it and then flake.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Or you go to a conference, you're the only person in the room. Okay, here's another person. Obviously, we'll be connecting and talking, and then they avoid you like the plague. Or they say, "Well, yeah, yeah, last week I presented for Amazon and I did this. Oh, okay, cool. Could you put me on? Oh, I can't even remember the email address, and I don't really know who I was talking to." And then no, they're posting that they did it again. So okay, bet, got it, right? So it's just those things that happen. And I think that it's heartbreaking. And it
mm-hmm.
also is, okay, bet. You take it on the
Ooh,
chin and you,
yes,
okay,
indeed.
bet. Right.
Yes,
And you
indeed. Because
keep it
we're gonna
moving.
come back. We're gonna
It's
come back. We're gonna see
fine.
you.
It's fine. You does not know who I am.
You do not. Come on, baby.
It's cool. But
Yeah.
now I prove it. And
Yeah.
and it's not to say that you were supposed to do anything.
Yeah.
think it's more so disappointing, right? When our expectations aren't met, we
Yes.
get disappointment.
Uh-huh.
And even though it's disappointing, it doesn't stop the show.
Yeah.
It just lets you know where to place people. And
Yes.
then you have to become what you didn't have,
Oh,
right?
man.
So now you
Well,
give
hold
in.
on, hold on. Doc, listen, Doc, listen. You hitting me, okay? Because I live it, and it's like I feel like I'm talking to different versions of myself just hearing your story. And I got so many questions because you have so much knowledge and wisdom, and you got it so quickly. You know, a lot of stuff that you're sharing, I didn't get until later. You know, I've been in the profession 20 years. Within the last 15, like from 15 to 20 is when I really started to move and understand the things that you're talking about. I didn't know for the first 15 because I didn't have those examples. So you got it early. So I'm curious because for a lot of people who have that same mentality, I'm just going to reach out and connect, and they keep getting the no's or the disappointments, and they stop reaching out. But for
Mhm.
you, it's like, you know, you're taking note. I see this. You know, we gonna have a conversation later. I'm gonna see you again, or you're gonna see me. How did you develop that confidence and that emotional intelligence to keep going, keep asking, keep reaching out, and not take it personal or not let it stop you from doing the things that you wanted to do?
Well, the mission is still the mission, whether they want to be a part of it or not.
Goodness.
The vision, the vision was still given to me,
Yes.
whether they want to participate or not.
Mm.
Right. So just because you don't respond or you don't want to show me or help me, right? And I'm just talking about casual conversations just to understand your trajectory here
Yeah.
because I'm looking up to you.
Yeah.
It's cool because I think another piece to it is understanding that oftentimes therapists operate from a scarcity mindset
Come
or
on.
professionals operate from a scarcity mindset.
Yes,
So
indeed.
if I had to fight to get this, I'm going to hoard it and I'm going to keep it. Right. And
Yeah.
no one else is going to get in my way for it. And I think that that's the mentality that a lot of people have and they want to be on top.
Hmm.
And I believe that in order to be on top, you have to give. I refer people out every week, but I keep
Hmm.
note on if you're not referring to me and I'm only referring to you. Now, two-way street don't still got some pavement on it, but I think that
You are just I gotta take part because you giving me life. I can't imagine what this is like for the listeners because this is so good for me. This is golden for me because it's validating. It's validating our lived experiences, and we're not alone. Even though we're in two different parts of the world, our experiences are so similar. And it's like, how is this possible? And this is our reality more often than not.
yeah, yeah,
Oh
it's a
man.
reality. So I always just stuck with the vision and recognize that over the years the picture has changed and what used to be definition of success looks differently now.
Mm,
So when you talk about different parts of ourselves, recognizing those transitions,
yeah.
uh, and still staying adamant about I'm gonna get this because it has to work out.
Yes, yes. So it sounds like you were living those parallels, you know, who you were, who you are, who you're becoming. So if you could share what the mission was based off of who you once were, and then how did that mission change based off of who you are now?
Yeah. I would say the mission of who I was to be seen and recognized,
Hmm.
right? I think that's where the arrogance came from because you underestimate me, so I want to show you,
Yeah, yeah.
which also came with a lot of anxiety
Mm,
to people please, to impress, to be on your P's and Q's. And I think who I am now is in transition. I think who we are now is constantly a place of transition.
yeah.
So becoming a lot less anxious and a lot more bold.
Mm,
And I was listening to a Ryan Leake book the other day, Level
hmm.
Up,
Yeah.
really great book. And he said, you can either do it prepared or you can do it scared.
Mm,
And I really love that because it's learning how to be more prepared so you can decrease anxiety,
yeah.
right? When we talk about anxiety, it's coming from a place of fear,
Hmm.
oftentimes not real, but it's something that we're fearful of. Well,
Yeah.
if I ready myself, then I can have more confidence and replace anxiety with this confidence.
Yeah.
And so I think that being able to do that over the years, especially as the picture has changed, has been tremendous growth for me, while recognizing there are a lot of things that I still need to learn that you just did not learn at school. They
Mhm.
don't teach you how to be a business owner. They don't
Sure.
teach you how to have a private practice. School doesn't teach you how to recognize your revenue and make strategic decisions based on finances and the market and how to close a deal. They teach you unconditional positive regard, and that's it. End of story. So it's up to you to figure it out.
Mm. I love it. I love it. Where did this wisdom and maturity come from?
Hmm. Putting one foot in front of the other. I think something that I really enjoy is reflecting. And I think that when you are a quality provider, you operate from a different lens on a regular basis anyway.
Mhm.
Right. And when people, if you get around people and they learn what you do and then they say, oh, you're probably analyzing. No, I actually don't care. I don't. And I think a lot of therapists would recognize I'm not at work. Right. Doesn't mean that we're not caring people. Of course,
Mhm.
we're caring people, but allow my job not allow that to not be my identity right now.
Yeah.
Right? We're at a party or a
Yeah.
social gathering or a fundraiser.
Yeah.
Let me separate that identity and let you know I don't actually care or I'm not analyzing you. I'm
Mhm.
actually judging you. But but saying that to say that the wisdom really came from just continuing on the path and listening and praying and be hopeful and looking at different people in the world and say, all right, I think I want to, that looks good, or I don't want to do that, and looking at numbers to see what could work and where do I feel most energetic and excited about, and who keeps coming back, and what type of clients do I attract, and what am I passionate about. So sitting in reflection, answering those questions, and then building something to complement that.
Okay. So I want to ask another question, then we're going to switch gears for a moment. Because what I'm hearing consistently since we've been talking is you seem fearless, where it's just like, I'll figure it out. I'll take a step. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'll try. And I feel like for many of us, we're crippled by fear, where we stop, we're this path and where we're trying to go, it stops because of the fear of what if. And what I hear from you is like, I'm going to do this and see what happens versus not doing it all at all and overwhelming myself in the attic related to what could have been. And you don't do that. So where did this idea of being fearless come from to get to this place where you've done it, you're doing it, and you'll continue to do it because you trust you?
Well, let me challenge that, because I'm not going to say that I've always been that way. I don't want to false claim. That's how
Okay.
people in the hood you get got false doing that.
That Memphis coming.
Right?
That Memphis coming.
That Memphis. Um, I I used to be scared, right? I used to be really anxious. If I had a presentation, I'm anxious. If I had a meeting, I'm anxious. If I had a job interview, I'm anxious. There's
Mhm.
still this light level of anxiety when you meet a client for the first time.
Mhm.
Just a little dusting right on
Yeah.
top. Nothing gut bearing, but just a little dusting of, all right, how are they going to receive me?
Mhm.
And how am I going to receive them? But I think that over time, I've learned, because I used to turn down things. I used to turn down opportunities. I remember I was working at a nonprofit job years ago as a therapist to get my hours for licensure. And I got the opportunity to be on the news, to be
Mhm.
a mental health contributor.
Yeah.
I turned it down. I gave it to somebody. I said, "Oh, I can't do that." Right.
Mhm.
And then I started telling myself all the reasons why you shouldn't. Well, opportunities luckily kept coming.
Mm.
And the more they came, the more I said, all right, there's something to this.
Mhm.
So what if we just tried? And then I fell in love with being able to do those types of things. So
Yeah.
I think I had to unlearn the idea that saying no kept you safe. And in some cases, saying no keeps you small. And so I
Ooh.
had to unlearn that and start saying yes. It's all right.
Mhm.
Well, you never know until you try. You're the expert on this. You do know your stuff. There's still a lot to learn, but they see something, whether it's an organization or whatever it is, they see something in you that you could bring value to.
Mm-hmm.
And just because you've never seen it done before doesn't mean that it can't. And luckily, they've mostly been positive experiences, and you just keep saying yes to what makes sense.
Wow. This is so powerful. This is your norm. This is how you live life, which I'm proud of. I'm thankful for, just to see another brother in this profession doing well based off of who they are. You know, it's not we're not getting caught up in the things that we do. We're caught up in who we are. And who we are gives us the opportunity to do the things that we do. So I love it. I love it. I want to switch gears a little more rapid fire questions. I'm curious to hear your experience of all the years in life, from birth to where you are now. What would you say you've learned about people over the years?
Hmm. Just one.
As much as you want, as much as you want to share.
I um I think that people oftentimes don't really understand that healing. I think that people are misguided and misinformed in general,
Okay.
right? Not even, I don't even care how successful you are or how much you think you have it together. I think in general, we are oftentimes misguided and misinformed. And I say that because of the rhetoric that you see online and a lot of think pieces and media and podcasts that talk about the differences between men and women and gender wars. I think that people are just misguided. I
Mm,
also think oftentimes we're all saying the same thing. It just depends on which package sits well with you and your lived experience that you take heed to it. I think sometimes people don't really want to heal, they just want to feel better. And healing is a process to get better, not an overnight success. So I'll have people start with me and they say, well, can we just do 3 hour sessions? Because I want to hurry up and get this over with. Well, we can do it intensive, but that doesn't mean that you're going to walk out of here completely. You're bringing in years of stuff. That's not going to happen. They're going to change overnight. You feel better when you leave here, but you're still going to do the same bullshit that you did before you walked in my office. Like, I'm not, don't get it twisted. You still going to watch these videos that you've been watching. I recognize that, right? And I can be real and honest with people.
mm-hmm.
And I also think that people pay for what they value and they value what they pay for.
Yeah.
And so I think, I would say that those are some things that I also wish that people would be a little less judgmental
Mm-hmm.
to people in the media and people in the light, whether it's
Yeah.
on social media or celebrities or, big names. We got to be easier on people and stop being judged. So I think that that's what I've learned, but I think that that comes from a place of always wanting to create some type of safety for yourself. So if that means that I'm judging you to feel safe so you don't get me,
Yeah.
almost like
Yeah.
the Memphis way. I don't know what it was like growing up where you were, but here it's called check-in, right? I think some people say the dozens or roast, whatever the case is, the young folks.
Yeah.
I'm officially unk status. So, but I recognize that checking was a form of keeping yourself safe. So if I can embarrass you or humiliate you first,
Yeah.
you won't have room to do it to me,
Mm-hmm.
because I want to be safe. So even if that's at the expense of hurting you. So I think a lot of that really just continues to happen over and over. It's just in a different format.
I would agree. I would
Yeah.
agree 100%. 100%. What would you say is your most proudest moment or accomplishment thus far?
Mm. uh, I would say learning how to love myself.
Mm.
Learning how to love myself. That was harder than any degree,
Mm-hmm.
any paper,
Yeah.
any research project, because that is, you can't just study a book, answer some questions, right? You really have to look in the mirror, study yourself, understand where you come from, find gratitude in all of that, and see the beauty in it. And
Yeah.
I think learning how to do that while still being exposed to an environment that may not completely support parts of you,
Mm-hmm.
I think is really challenging. So I'd say my biggest accomplishment is learning how to love myself, because as long as I love myself, I'll make good decisions. I think
Good
when
stuff.
we don't fully love ourselves, we don't make the best decisions, or if we're constantly stressed. When you're stressed, you typically don't make the best decisions.
Agreed. 100%. You are out here preaching, okay? You are out here preaching and
But
teaching.
it's just around the corner, so sermons
So-
come early.
I am here for it. I'm here for it. Who would you describe to be, or who is or was your hero?
Hmm. My imagination. Going back to
Mm,
imagination. Yeah, that's who what, this abstract thought always kept me safe and always kept me inspired. So when I think of a hero, I think of a figure that you look to give you power and confidence and all those things. So I think it's whatever I conjured up in my imagination was my representation of a hero.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. That sounds like the future version of you, the better version, the healthier version, like always being able to see this person and then become him, and then
Mm.
see the next person and then become him. Like, I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. What's a word, phrase, memory, or moment that has stuck with you personally or professionally?
A word, duality,
Hmm.
recognizing that multiple things can coexist at the same time. I think that helps me in life and in my work, where sadness and gratitude can coexist. Anger and, happiness can coexist, right? So learning that multiple things can coexist. So duality would be a word, a phrase would be people pay for what they value and they value what they pay for.
Hmm.
And experience would probably be becoming an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
It's not for the weak. It is not for the faint of heart. That is for sure.
True story. True
Yeah.
story. As a fellow entrepreneur, true story. True story. So now I want to go back to the basement, but we on the light version of the basement. So we're just gonna hang out on the steps going
Okay.
down to the basement. What would you say is an interesting fact about yourself, or a lot of things that people wouldn't believe about you?
Mm. A fun fact or a fact about myself. I now I think that I am hilarious,
I would
right?
agree.
Now,
You've proven that.
I don't think I would ever do stand up, but I think that I'm funny.
Hmm.
So I think that when I work with an organization or I do consulting work or a client comes in or a coaching client comes in, we are going to laugh.
Yeah.
I don't care how serious people feel like it needs to be.
Uh-huh.
There has to be laughter in something that we're doing. And we may start the session with some heavy emotional work, or that may be in there no matter what I'm doing for an organization or a person. There has to be laughter in what I do. So I think that that would be something that people may not expect when you're coming to someone professionally. And then I can't remember, what was your other question?
Something people wouldn't believe about you.
I'd be trying to go home. I'd be trying to go home. People say, "Oh, I always see you out." I'm trying to go home.
Okay.
I want to get home before traffic. I I don't want to sit in traffic. I don't like that bumper to bumper, not go-karts. I'm trying to go home. That's where it's safe. That's where I pay the mortgage. I'm trying to lay down.
I
So,
love it. I love it. It sounds like just an old soul. It sounds like an old soul.
yeah, don't I'm not going anywhere with no hookah. I don't want that nonsense. If and live music
Uh-huh.
grinds my gears.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Why are we going to dinner with live music and we cannot hear each other?
Okay.
What are we doing? And y'all smoking hookah? Don't worry about it.
I'm finna
Don't
go
worry about it.
home.
Throw it away. I'm gonna go home because I know I can control the volume of my TV.
Oh, listen, stand up is in your future, okay? Listen, if you hearing it here first, it is in your future. Random story. I gotta share this. I've been wanting to do stand up since I was about 11 years old. 10, 11. I saw Eddie Murphy Raw for the first time, and I was hooked. I was sold. So I feel as though I'm funny as well. But doing stand up was so scary to me. I decided to get a PhD instead. So I went and got a PhD before I ever hit the stage. this year, 2024, was the year I decided I'm going to do stand up, and I did a 5-minute comedy set, and it
Nice,
was one of the most liberating experiences I ever had because
nice.
I never did it, and I always talked myself out of it. And the fear was all the things that was in my head, not the reality. And I didn't care about getting a laugh, getting booed, or anything. My goal was to just do it, and I did it.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I'm a stand-up comedian now. I'm a licensed mixologist. I'm a licensed therapist. Like you mentioned, duality. Like we have different things about us, and it was a very liberating experience. So my challenge to you, if you're up for it, find a way. Find a way. I know it's kind of sob, no biggie, but you got something, man. Your personality, you are humorous. People need to see other sides of us. So that's my challenge for you.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you got me over here in tears. Okay. Please know that. Please know that. All right. Couple more questions and then I'm gonna let you go home because you got stuff to do. So if you were to describe those three parallels, who you were, who you are, who you're becoming, how would you describe those three individuals?
Mm. All three are ambitious. All three are ambitious. Who I was, I may have not always known how to do it, but I knew as long as I put one foot in front of the other, it's going to get me somewhere. Who I am continues to be ambitious because I know this isn't the end. And who I want to be will still be ambitious because there's always a greater cause to be able to gain so you can give.
Love
Yeah.
it. All right. So final question is not really a question, it's a challenge. And it's a challenge that you have for the listeners. On this show, we do life work. Life work is a little different from homework. Homework, you take it home, you do it, you turn it in, you never remember it. Life work, you take it home, you do it, your life can change. So if you can offer something to the listeners about them pivoting, shifting, changing, what would it be?
Um, ooh, I would, a couple of things. I
Okay.
would say, so I'm thinking about advice to a younger self, right?
Mm-hmm.
Save your money.
Mm-hmm.
Save your money. I used to be so caught up in just having to look a certain way and didn't really have.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say save your money, exfoliate twice a week. Stop listening to all these skin people that I don't know when it became popular to wash your face on camera with a light in your face, but people are onto something and I don't know where it came from. Stop being influenced by everybody because that stuff may not even work for your skin. I recognize this answer is going to be all over the place.
And I love it. I'm here for it.
Save your money, exfoliate twice a week. Um, really pay attention to what feels good to you and not what you think someone else has. I
Mhm.
remember being a kid and a Range Rover was my dream car.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing these Range Rovers in these big houses and wondering how people got what they did to get that. And the
Yeah.
older I've gotten, the more I realized, well, Justin, you may not even be willing to do that, right?
Mhm.
However, they got it,
Yeah.
right? So stop paying attention to what it looks like someone has and pay more attention to what makes sense to you. So those are some things that I would say, and put the phone down and really listen to your gut and yourself, and tie your attention to your purpose because that's where the vision is in your purpose. So anytime that I get off path, and this is something I realized recently,
Mhm.
anytime I say, oh man, they're speaking at this event, I can do that. Well, yeah,
Mhm.
you can, but is that what you're supposed to be doing?
Yeah.
So the vision is the path. So anytime we start to question, just listen to yourself. And sometimes that means being still, putting the phone down, putting other people's opinions out, because everybody's going to have an opinion and they don't even know how to do what they telling you to do, and go inward, right? Yeah. And it's always older people. It's like, oh, you need to just put your head down and just never even went. You didn't own a. Okay, I want to give you advice. You got to pay
But
attention to the people that's talking to you, trying to pour into you. Oh, okay,
mhm.
that's
Yes.
not pouring.
Yes.
Poison,
It's poisoning. Listen,
poison.
I feel like we was at the family reunion and you and I just ducked off in the corner and just started talking. I feel like that's just what
Right, long
happened.
lost cousins.
Long lost brothers. We going
Yeah,
beyond cousins. Well, we
yeah.
first cousins. Because all of the things that you're saying, I understand it. I get it. I've been speaking it. and to have somebody else speaking the same thing. We've never met. Like, this is our first meeting of many. Like, we're stuck together. Like,
Yeah.
we're just gonna be together because we out here doing this work. And as I mentioned off air, we are so unique, being black male therapists, working at a very high level. We are unicorns, but we happen to be black with a gold horn. So I'm just glad to see another fellow unicorn in this profession doing this amazing work, because we need us. We need us, and people need to see us being us, doing the things that we do. So with that said, for the listeners, if people want to get in contact with you, they want to give you some flowers, they want to become a client, they want to connect with you, how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah. So like I said, I'm officially UNC status. So I mainly use Instagram. I don't know how to use all these other things. But people can reach me on Instagram at it's Dr. J Keith, ITSDRJKEITH. And my website is www.navigatingcouragecac.com. So people can always go on there and fill out the Connect with Us information page, just to drop their information, and we'll be in touch with them to see how we can be of assistance. But people can always reach out on social media. And if an organization is looking to enhance their capacity for mental health programming, I also offer that service as a consultant, and do trainings all around the world. So we're just looking to get this work and to help people by putting one foot in front of the other.
Love it. Love it. And I'm here for it. So any final thoughts, anything you want to leave or share with the listeners before we get out of here?
Yeah. I appreciate you. I appreciate you creating this space. And I hope that by people listening to this podcast, they get to see the human being that is also a therapist, and not just relegate us to only being mental health professionals, because we are a host of different things and we can do different things. So hopefully by people listening, they can see you don't just have to be one thing, and you can let your gifts speak for themselves just by staying true to what you want to do.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for the conversation. Again, we are tied. We are stuck. We are here. So we're going to do some great work together in the future. I'm speaking it now, because I feel as though we have very similar perspectives on it's enough for all of us. It's plenty.
Yeah.
It's an abundance. So there's no need to gatekeep, because it's so much. I can't do it all. So I want to be able to give it to somebody. So opportunities that come to me that I choose, okay, this doesn't work for me, I'm sending it to you. And I'm sure it'll work vice versa, because we're just doing the best we can with what we have. And that's more than enough.
Yeah.
So I appreciate your personality, your perspective, your energy, your integrity, your vulnerability, your wisdom, like all of that. I appreciate it. And you sharing it with the listeners, where, our story, our lived experience, you never know how it can impact someone else by us choosing to be who we actually are. So much love to you. Thank you so much. And I'm definitely going to have you back for season 2. Just know that. Just know that, because there's so much more we can talk about.
I'm going to flip the script and I'll be asking you questions.
I'm cool with that.
Season
Listen,
2.
I'm ready. I am ready. I'm ready. All right. So this has been another amazing episode of the 3 Parallels podcast with your host, the Dr. Jason Branch, where we transition from who we once were, we embrace and accept who we are, and we make room for who we're trying to become. If this episode has been a blessing to you, it's been helpful for you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Share it. And reach out to Dr. Dodson in any capacity, because he's open, he's ready, and you can catch him at this time. I'm letting you know now, you're not always going to be able to have access, because this brother is moving. And one thing I know about access, everybody doesn't have it. If you think about LeBron James, there's only a select few that has his cell phone number. So that means everybody doesn't get access. So where we are in our profession, you have access at this time, but it won't always be the case. So take advantage while you can. Much love. And as Dr. Dodson say, listen, y'all can go to the house. Take your time, take care of you.
Lay down, rest.
Go lay down and rest. Much love to you all. Have a great day, great morning, great evening, great weekend, great life. Peace.
Feeling overwhelmed? Searching for someone who truly gets it? At J. Branch & Associates, we provide mental health support for BIPOC communities, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, and others facing unique challenges. We understand the weight of generational trauma, the struggles of identity, and the pressures of being a part of an underestimated and overlooked group. At J. Branch & Associates, therapy isn't a one-size-fits-all. We create a safe, culturally aware space where you can feel seen, heard, and understood. Finding a therapist who truly fits you matters, and that's exactly what we're here for. Our team of highly trained licensed therapists bring compassion, empathy, and real-world experience to help you on your journey to healing and growth. We're committed to helping you become the best version of yourself. Ready to take the next step? Visit us at www.drjbranch.com for more information, or call or text 404-436-2540 to schedule your free 15-minute consultation. You can also book your first session today. Thank you for choosing J. Branch and Associates, therapists of color providing exceptional care to BIPOC communities, quality service, exceptional care from authentic professionals.